So I have been looking at a couple of things on NQ recently. I've been struggling with the contract, like the B-ADJ setting and the B-ADJ setting on or off. But that's the setting down here in the right, which is basically helps with the continuous contract and making those adjustments between the continuous contracts. But we are kind of at a very interesting point here because with the B-ADJ off on TradingView, we are currently trading at all-time highs. And so it's extremely difficult at all-time highs to kind of have like targets off in the theoretical distance because we've never seen price action here. And so for me, at least, I really didn't like the idea of having it on. I usually actually have B-ADJ on, but trying to figure out, where to put your targets or, because like we still can go up, but we have no data to show where we've been or how we're going to react at certain price points. So I had actually turned it on. I know a lot of people maybe disagree with that, but at least what it's able to give me, at least for the foreseeable future, is I have a couple of points where I can say like a liquidity might be here or supply zones might be here, here, here. So those can be used as targets. So at least until we hit these new highs, I'm going to keep B-ADJ on and I'm going to use those as theoretical targets and supply points so that I can play long because we're extremely bullish right now. And so that kind of leads me into today's trades. Since I do have B-ADJ on, I was able to at least get a couple of these targets, like long-term targets, or draw on liquidity, however you want to reference that. But my objective today, originally, I was looking at those points. I was looking at those like draw on liquidity. I was trying to find where were we gonna, because we opened around 16,835. And so my original draw on liquidity was this 16,942, which was, if you go back on the daily chart, you can see where I got it from. That was my original draw on liquidity, and I really messed up today because a couple of things were going on in my head. So that was my original pre-market thesis, was that was our draw on liquidity. I was bullish because, again, we're putting in higher lows even in the overnight session. Things looked pretty bullish otherwise, but I made a mistake on my first trade, and I fixed that error on my second trade, but I wanted to go over that. So let's see here. So just two trades today, but we broke above yesterday's high of day, and we consolidated a little bit above it, and we ended up breaking below it. So I don't know what I was thinking. I must have completely disconnected from my plan. Unfortunately, I didn't have it written down this morning, and I must have just completely disconnected from my original plan, because on a higher time frame, like your 5 minutes, like this actually was a really great pullback, and really would have been great, right? I didn't want to play this kind of opening range area. We broke above it, broke above yesterday's high of day that we had at like 16,887. And then like on the 5 minute chart, we had a decent pullback here, right? A couple of confluences. Number one, this was the overnight high, and it also coincidentally had VWAP holding right here. If we did a fib from this leg to the top here, I mean, that basically came down to like 78.6%. So big retracement as well, which NQ tends to do. And then just a huge run up. The issue that I had here was like, I saw the sell below yesterday's high of day, and I was thinking, if we are bullish, I would think that it would break above, test and hold yesterday's high of day, and I should have known better that NQ likes those deep retracements. So that was really just not a good decision overall. I set a limit order right here at like 887 to go short after we broke below it. And I was actually watching this huge reaction off of VWAP right here. Just, pretty big candles, pretty intense buying. And even when I got tagged into the trade, I felt almost immediately that I was not in the right trade. I set my stops above the high of day over here, and my target was just this most previous swing low. And, roughly 1.5 risk to reward ratio. So I didn't feel terrible about it, aside from the fact that it was against my original thesis for the day, which was the draw on liquidity, which was at the higher levels. So again, this was not about my trade placement necessarily here. It was just the fact that I essentially blanked out on my original thesis for the day, which was the long and bullish bias. So definitely can learn from that. Just stick with what I know, stick with my original pre-market plan, and things would have played off a lot better. I mean, a couple of you could have gone long here for a pretty short scalp. I could have gone long at VWAP any point here, or long after we broke and retested the high of day again. That could have been another long trade. I risked about 395 on this trade. It was definitely more than I like to risk. I try to keep my risk at like 250 to 300. But I saw high of day was there, and I was thinking, hey, if we're bearish, it's not going to go past that. So I said, why not add a couple extra points? I did get stopped out here. But my second trade turned out, it wasn't bad, but it wasn't a good trade. I didn't have a setup. It was basically back to my original thesis and the original draw on liquidity, which was 16,942 right here. And the process was we broke above high of day, we were supported by high of day, and then we kind of consolidated for like 30 minutes, which I view as bullish consolidation. And then once we had a couple of pretty big wicks in the upward direction, I knew we were chasing for this buy side liquidity. And so I just hopped in. I saw the volume, I saw the candles forming, and I thought we were in a pretty decent position. I held through this kind of, this small little pullback here on this second one. And I actually added a contract after we broke above right about here. I added another contract, so I was 2 NQ contracts long, and then I took off basically as we were hitting a little bit more resistance here. I know these liquidity areas aren't just a straight line above like previous highs, and usually they're in some form a zone. So, you know, I'm thinking as we approach this zone, I don't know how it's going to react. It doesn't just react perfectly, but this is pretty close, and I was assuming we were reacting. So I just took off the 2 contracts, and I made like 390 after that with 2 contracts, a quick scalp. So I made back most of my original loss, and I ended the day at like -$5. But today's Monday. I don't want to overtrade. I had a bad trade initially. I made another one, made my money back, and I want to be done for today. So today was, it was a good learning experience to make sure that I stick with my original thesis and don't deviate, right? Don't deviate. My draw on liquidity was right. My analysis was right. I just need to find my entries, find the decent pullbacks, find the entries, find the decent levels, and then go with your plan. So that was the original issue for today. But I'm glad I'm pretty much break even for the day, so I'm just going to be done, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace.